Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are well. A belated Eid Mubarak to you all. How's everybody doing? Sorry about not being able to do a stream last. I think I was supposed to do it last week or the week before. I'm not sure, but a lot of things came up, so I just wasn't able to do it. I've also delayed. I haven't been able to record the part 2 for the reaction video. If any of you have seen that. But I'm hoping to get that done by tomorrow. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Don't make promises you can't keep, as they say, right? Assalamu alaikum, Brad. Good to see you. All good. We have our Tuka. Assalamu alaikum. And Aladdin. That's Aladdin. That's Aladdin. Aladdin from Azza tribe. And Hamid, keep on forgetting which way around that goes. Anyway, hope you are well today. So this was going to be a short stream, but I don't know if maybe I ended up writing up a bit more than I was going to. But anyway, let's get on with it. We're talking about eternity and hellfire and that sort of stuff. Let's see if I can get this looking a bit better. Then we can hop right into it. Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, so I'm just going to give a brief presentation about this. And then, as always, remember, please feel free to join the live stream and share any insights into any verses you might have. The link is in the chat, pinned at the top. Should be anyway. What did he say here? Sorry, Aladdin. Glad you make it in 2 days. Yeah, glad I made it in 2 days. Yes, thank you. Hope you can all hear me, right? Just because I'm using a different machine and don't want a false alarm. Okay. Anyway, so let's get on with this. So eternity as timelessness. So I've put in the title for the stream, Eternity in an Hour, which is taken from the very famous, it's a long poem, of course, by William Blake. If you haven't read it, it's got a lot of nice turn of phrases inside that poem. But he starts off with the poem like this: to see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. So that's that sort of idea that I'm talking about here, where you can have eternity, you can think of eternity as being in an hour, right? And that kind of idea gives you a sense of sort of timelessness, where you have the whole of time in just one moment. Okay, and that would be sort of timelessness. Okay, timelessness. We're not talking about real time. But I put it in this poem because it's something that sort of people can understand, right? Human beings can understand this concept, right? It's sort of like an eternal time within a finite time, or having a sense of eternity in one moment. Okay, a sense of eternity in one moment, which isn't, of course, I don't know how would say analytical time or something like in real time. Anyway, let's discuss this a bit more. It's of course got to do with the issue of hellfire, right? There are various ways by which people, get around, let's say, the problem of hell and eternal punishment for finite deeds, because that's the issue, right? How can we have an eternal punishment, somebody being punished forever and ever unceasingly, okay, for a limited time of deeds that you've done in this world? And, we've mentioned on this channel many times that in the end, heaven and hell are achieved by deeds, not beliefs or anything like that. Okay, so people come around this with different ways. One of them, most popular one, is probably that hell will come to an end, and eventually hell will stop existing. Sort of God packs it up, and there's no more hell. Okay, another one is that the punishment in hell is temporary. That everybody who enters hell only enters it temporarily. Eventually they leave. Okay, لابثين فيها أحقابا. It's taken from that verse mostly. Okay, that they will be in there for ages. أحقاب is a plural for an age. Okay, so if something is a plural, it's finite. And then there's the idea that the people of hell will literally become ashab nar, the companions of the fire, or ashab al-jahim, like they will become accustomed to it, or they will become familiar with it, they will become elemental. Okay, in the same way that they give examples of how if you take a piece of iron and you put it in the furnace, okay, it sort of like feels pain as it gets heated up hotter and hotter and hotter until eventually it becomes, red hot, right? And it's become like part of the fire. The iron has become like fire itself. Okay, the iron has become fire itself as it's been in the fire for so long. And now actually taking it out of the fire is more painful for it. Sort of the idea, if you take out that red hot piece of iron and then you put it into the water, now it feels punishment when you put it in cool water, okay, because its nature has changed. So this was something I think was pioneered mostly by the great Sufi Ibn Arabi. He said, and he even played on it with the words. He said the azab, the punishment, the word azab in Arabic, after a certain amount of time, the alif represents time, it will change. After a certain amount of time is passed, it will change into azb. The Arabic word azb is sweetness. Like it's used in the Qur'an for the two when it's talking about the sweet water and bitter water, the salty bitter water, and the sweet refreshing water that you can drink. Okay, so there's that idea. There's also the idea that they will become inanimate. Some people in the past spoke of that they will become jamad, right? That eventually they will stop moving. Okay, and someone said that they stop. All movement will eventually stop. It means they just become inanimates. Okay, like stone. God changes them while they're in hellfire. They get changed into basically just like stone, right? Stone, inanimate beings. Okay, there's also the idea that both heaven and hell, both of them will come to an end because the only true eternal one is God, right? Ultimately, they will both come to an end. Time itself comes to an end because only God is eternal. And I've mentioned before, this shouldn't actually be a bullet point here. I've mentioned before that in the hereafter, those in hell are between being alive and being dead. So I think I forget the name of that stream, but we were talking about how if you look at how the life of people of this world is called and the life of the hereafter is called, and for the people of Jannah, and the life of the people in hell, how it's all described, it seems like we now are more alive than the people in hell will be. People in hell, the Quran talks about them, ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. They are neither alive nor dead. They're in between life and dead. Okay, so that's sort of a bit like this idea of inanimates, right? Whereas, we're told that this hayat dunya, this life of this world, is just a sort of an illusion and a delusion. Okay, and the hereafter, lahiya al-hayawan, that's true life. The people in Jannah, they are really alive. In comparison to us, they have real, life. And so you can think of it in that sort of spectrum. Anyway, so these are all different ways people try to get over this. I myself, what I like to emphasize is the explicit, repeated affirmations in the Quran that no injustice will be done. Okay, that's the important thing. How will that come about? Okay, we can talk about it as much as we want, but in the end, the Quran says that repeatedly, لا ظلم اليوم. There will be no injustice on that day. Okay, and even the people who enter hell will go and say, Alhamdulillah, that God was not unjust to us, right? They will praise God for His justice, that that they are not receiving any injustice. And we've said also, punishment is only in accordance with deeds. إِنَّمَا تُجْزَوْنَ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Okay, the Quran says this to the people of hell as well. لا تعتذر اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. Okay, you're only being recompensated according to what you did. Okay, nothing more, nothing less, right? So it's by their deeds, okay, according to the deeds, and that's it. And the second thing, another thing, very important thing, is that God's justice and His mercy are ultimately one. Okay, like the title of the slide is, it's not a clash between justice and mercy. Okay, God's justice is not at war with His mercy, and whichever one wins, that's what. It isn't like that. It isn't that God's justice is fighting over people, and God's mercy is fighting over people, and which one is going to win? Okay, no, God is one, right? His justice is enough to send people to heaven, okay, just by His justice, and just by His mercy, it's enough to send people to hell. Okay, these are both. They're both in the end. God is in the end one. Okay, we talk about God's qualities and His thing, but in the end, He is ultimate oneness, God. Okay. And another thing to remember with people that do this, they're basically they're judging God before He has done anything, right? So no one has yet been sent to hell. Okay, nobody has even seen it, and God is waiting for Judgment Day to judge us for what we have actually done already. Okay, so all of humanity have all done certain crimes, misdeeds, etc. But God isn't judging us for right now, right? Okay, God is going to wait until Judgment Day, and then there'll be judgment. Okay, so shouldn't we at least wait until Judgment Day, until actually seeing hell, okay, before judging God as unjust for what He has yet to do? Okay, what we have yet to see, and what is really beyond us right now. The idea of hell and life after death. These things are beyond us right now. So can't we at least trust that God really will not be so flagrantly unjust as some imagine? Okay, and then of course there's the idea I've mentioned before in that more speculative video, God's end game. That beyond heaven and hell, that there's something more to this. We're not here being tested for virtues, for taqwa, for bir, for these sort of things, only to just be then spend the rest of eternity in heaven, just enjoying ourselves. Okay, I believe that there's going to be something beyond. Right, we're being tested for a purpose. Okay, God wants to see which of us is best in deeds, and that is going to count for something in the afterlife. In the same way, those who fail in this world, basically going to hell is like, okay, they're not useful. These people are not going to be part of the future project of humanity. Okay, they're not going to be, they can't be entrusted with anything. Okay, so they go to hell, and it's sort of like end game for them. Another way to, one of the ways to understand. Anyway, I'll skip that. I don't want to make this too long. So eternity, khulud, and timelessness. So the Arabs did use khulud for things that seem to defy time. Okay, things that seem to defy time. In the same way that we would say about somebody who is who doesn't seem to age. They would say about somebody, mukhallad min nas. He's just ageless. This person, for the last 20 years, he hasn't changed. His looks haven't changed. Okay, they would say to someone like mukhallad. He's ageless. He's time is not ravaging his body. Okay, or for a woman. Okay, and you see that sometimes, right? You see these video clips of where they bring these celebrities and say, these videos where it says proof that so and so doesn't age, right? And they bring the pictures of this actor or actress from 20 years and how he or she is now, and there's hardly any difference. Okay, ageless, right? That was used, or for something that doesn't change, so for something that doesn't change over time. Okay, and so it's timeless in that sense. So there are some Quranic examples for this. So there's this is one I like the most, I think. This verse. واتل عليهم نبأ الذي آتيناه آياتنا فانسلخ منها فأتبعه الشيطان فكان من الغاوين, and recite to them, O Muhammad, the news or the tale of the one whom we gave our signs, we gave knowledge of our signs, but he detached himself from them. Okay, So Shaitan pursued him and he became of the deviants. Okay, من الغاوين. And then the next verse says ولو شئنا لرفعناه بها ولكنه أخلد إلى الأرض واتبع هواه. And if we had willed, we would have elevated him by those signs. But he adhered to, he stuck to, he didn't change. He stuck to the earth. He adhered to the earth. ولكنه أخلد إلى الأرض. Right? He just chose to be unchanging in his sort of adherence to the earth, to the sensual things, to the lower world. Okay, and followed his ahwa, his own desires. Okay. And so what akhlada al-ard means is that he was just unchanging with regards to his, to wanting the earth. Okay, wanting to be, not thinking of beyond this earth, beyond this sensual world. The earth here has been mentioned because we're talking about sort of materialism. Okay, the material things of this world. Okay, and also he followed his hawa. Okay, ولكنه أخلد الأرض واتبع هواه. He followed his Hawa. Hawa, remember, we had a stream about that. It's in opposition to knowledge a lot of the time. Okay, it's not shahwat. Okay, shahwat is the lusts, the body lust, and I think they're already included within this akhlada ila al-ard, right? But this is something else. Taba'a hawa, he followed his ahwa. Okay, and then the verse sort of explains that. فَمَثَلُهُ, so his example is what? Is like a dog. Okay, كمثل الكلب إن تحمل عليه يلهث أو تتركه يلهث. When you move towards him threateningly, okay, like you pick up a stick and you come towards him like you're going to hit him, basically threatening the dog, okay, doesn't do anything, just sits there and pants, lolls out his tongue and pants, يلهث. أو تتركه يلهث. Or if you don't do anything, he just sits there and does the same thing, doesn't change, unchanging, okay. Okay, his example is like that of a dog. If you chase him, he pants. Or if you leave him, he still pants. Okay? I don't think chase is the best word here. It says just tahmil alayhi. Okay, there are sometimes the dog gets to the state where he just won't change. Okay, whatever you do. Right? This one makes it seem as if, while you're chasing him, he's running away, he's panting. Right? But I think it's talking about إن تحمل عليه يلهث أو تتركه يلهث. Okay, but the point is, whichever way you take it, it's still talking about, it's the same thing. It's not changing. That is an example of the one who denied our signs. So we relate to them the stories that perhaps they will give full thought. Another example is يحسب أن ماله أخلده. Okay, he thinks that his wealth will make him immortal. Okay, he thinks his wealth will always keep things the same for him. Keep him in only good times, only good condition. Of course, nobody actually thinks, no rich person actually thinks that his wealth will make him immortal and live forever. Okay, maybe in the future some people will think that. Then there are some people that are trying to, rich people are trying to invest in technology and gene therapy and stuff to make them live forever, etc. But of course, in the past, nobody even thought. This didn't occur to anybody. Anybody who was rich didn't think that his wealth was actually going to make him immortal and never die. What does it mean? What does it mean? Does this person actually think that he's going to be immortal and never die because of his wealth? No, of course not. It means that he thinks that his wealth will keep him as he is. Okay? As he is, unchanging. Okay? No trouble will happen to him. He will be as he is. Okay? Another verse. يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون. Okay, in the Quran it talks about the youths who will serve the people in Jannah, and this describes them a lot of the times as ولدان مخلدون. They will be mukhallad. Okay, what does that mean? They will mukhallad. That they will be eternal. No, it means that they will be sort of forever young, unchanging. They're not going to change. They will always be youths like this. They're not going to sort of grow older. It's not about that they're going to, everybody's going to be in Jannah, everybody's going to be there forever, right? Eternal. Okay, so why is this verse saying mukhalladun about the wildan? It's just talking about, it's describing that they're going to be unchanging. Okay, unchanging. Mukhalladun here, they're not going to change, they're not going to grow older, etc. So that's another indication of that. Okay, so again, so linguistically then it is it does make sense to refer to timelessness as a form of eternity. Okay, when you remove time, if you take away the quality of time, okay, then everything is happening in no time, okay, or in the now, really in no time. Everything is happening without any time, okay. Everything is happening all at once at the same time, and yet still in a way sequentially, okay, if that makes sense, okay. And so what you have is the eternal now. I'm gonna play at the end. I'll try to play this video from one of the NEDs I've used before, but this person, he tried to put things in very good words, and one of the things which he said is that during his experience, it felt like a perpetual unfolding of now. Okay, a perpetual, so forever, eternal, unfolding of just now, this one moment. Okay, so the same thing. Okay, like I said, when you remove time, everything is happening in no time. Okay, all you have is the eternal now. Okay, in which everything happens. Or you could say the eternal day, right? Eternal day. Okay, so we have this actual word in the Quran. Okay, it says in Surah Qaf, when it's talking about the people of Jannah, it says, "Udkhuluha bisalam." Enter it with peace. ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُلُودِ. That is the day of eternity. The day of, what does it mean, day of eternity? That the day is going to be one day for eternity, it's not going to end? Or does it mean it's a day of timelessness? Okay, day of timelessness, day of eternity. Okay, when one day you have the whole of eternity. And so that brings you back to that same poem of William Blake, Eternity in an Hour. I've changed it a little bit here, maybe a bit presumptuous, I'm not sure, but I sort of just took a few minutes to change a few things here. I've rewritten it a little bit. It says, to see a world in a grain of sand, and heaven in taqwa's way, be given infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in a day. Okay, so you can have this eternity in a day. Now, one of the ways that people have tried to get, again, around the problem of hellfire, this is one which I saw from Adnan Ibrahim. Okay, Adnan Ibrahim said that the punishment often in the Quran is mentioned as the punishment of a day. Okay, the punishment of a day, not the punishment of anything more. Just a minute, sorry. Go back to something else. Yeah. So, for example, in this verse, إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a terrible day. So the whole punishment is going to be a day. Okay, a day. But that day is going to be a day of khulud, right? Very similar to, people in Jannah, ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُلُودِ. That is the day of khulud, of eternity or timelessness. Okay, so indeed I fear for you the punishment of a terrible day. إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Described it as a day. Okay, and there are many verses like this. When I searched it, I think it was like something 15 verses which describe it as, يوم عظيم, يوم أليم, يوم كبير, يوم عقيم. Okay, عذاب يوم عظيم, عذاب يوم أليم, عذاب يوم كبير, etc. Here's another one here. أن لا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم أليم. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a painful day, just one day. Okay, and then Ibrahim, I think he uses that, and he talks about how that one day could be 50,000 years or whatever, but that just brings back the same problem. Even if the day is 1,000 years, okay, who does the sins to warrant punishment in hell for 1,000 years? Again, I think it's just we have to get out of this idea that it's got to do with sequential time. That people will be in hell for a day, and then 2 days, then 3 week, a month, a decade, a year. It's not like that. It's not this cumulative time. Okay, and let's say though you do think that there's going to be eternal time, the time itself will just keep going. Okay, never-ending time. Okay, that there will always be time. That time is not something that will end. Okay, that there will not be a beyond time. Then you still don't need to conclude from that the punishment will be will be infinite. Okay, these are not the same things. You can have something which stretches on eternity in time, but it's still finite. It's still finite. Okay, and I've spoken about this before. The way the easiest way to understand that is through limits of mathematics, and I wrote an equation for it. It's right here on the screen. So let me just read what I've wrote here. I've mentioned before that even if you accept that time will always continue, and those in hell will continue onwards in time, years, decades, millennia, billions of millennia, etc., that does not necessitate that the punishment will be cumulative and infinite. That doesn't have to follow. Okay, these are separate things: eternity and infinity in terms of something happening. They're not the same. Eternity is not infinity. Eternity is infinite time. Eternity is infinite time. Okay, but infinity is separate basically. And like I said, the best way to understand it is with a mathematical formula. So there's the equation which I wrote, where you take y as the amount of punishment, c is basically the amount of decreed punishment that the person would get. And basically I use the tan function. Okay, and of course x is time, has to be greater than 0. You're not going to have negative time. And y has to be greater than 0. You're not going to have negative punishment. So when you plot it, it looks like this, right? It looks like this. And maybe I'll show it on another tab as well. But basically, if you put here, set the value as 10, so punishment equals 10, right? Then what happens is, of course, and y is the total amount of punishment received. Okay, so let's say after 5 years, he's gotten this amount of punishment. After 10 years, we're here. Okay, he's received this amount. 15 years here. As this is a limit function. Okay, it will only reach 10 at infinity. Okay, it will only reach 10 at eternity. Right? You have to go on forever before it reaches 10. Okay, but it will never go above 10. It will never go above 10. The punishment is not cumulative in that way. Okay, it's just 10, and this 10 is sort of, you can imagine it as being stretched out over eternity. Okay. Okay, so let me bring out that. Oops. How do I get out of this? Okay. Let me see if I can bring forward that. So I want to close. Let me stop sharing that first. Okay. And close this and pull out that. Okay, so I just want to play this. Just give me a second to get this sorted. So I'm just going to play a part of the NDE, which I think he does maybe a better job of explaining sort of the idea that I'm going for here than I actually do. Okay, I'll play it and just let me know that if you can hear the actual sound, please. Let me give it a test run. Okay, can just somebody confirm that you heard that? Did you hear that? Was the sound okay? Anybody? Quick confirmation would be very helpful. From how many people do we have on the stream now? Maybe there's hardly nobody here. No sound. Okay. Yeah, no sound. Oh, no, well, it was playing a minute ago. Maybe. Okay, let me keep it playing and then tell me. Okay, can you hear that? No sound. Still no sound. Okay, hold on. How do I do this? Stop sharing. Let's try sharing again. Go to the settings. Recording. No, I don't. Recording. See, I'm using Firefox instead of Google Chrome. That's the one to share the screen. Okay, let me give that one more go. Give it one more shot, and I see you, Adam, was waiting to come on. Just give me a second. Let's try. Okay, if this doesn't work, I'll try sharing the whole screen. It says here mute website notification while sharing. Okay, but I don't want to mute. Okay, hold on. I think I'm doing something wrong. And now, hold on, let me stop that one more time. Why doesn't it give me the option to share audio? Mute set. Okay, let's allow one more time. We play it. Okay, is the audio working now? I can't even see it moving here. Okay, so it's not working. All right, let's give it one more time. Let me just give one more try. Let's do the whole screen this time. Entire screen. Let's give that a go. How come it's not giving me the option to allow the audio? That's what usually it does on Chrome. Okay. Let's give this a go now. One more time. Okay, was that working? No, yeah, I was letting it play quite a bit of time. Nothing. All right, never mind. Never mind. There's the link. You can have a look at it at your leisure, I suppose, because it just didn't work. Okay. Let me bring on our guest. Though it says here the audio, they will need to connect their audio mic. So this is Sham Adam. Sham, not Adam. There we go. Okay, audio is connected. Let's add you on. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, walaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, man. It's been a while since I've been on your show. I'm not sure if you can remember me.
Yes, I remember your voice, definitely. Did you have a different
Yeah,
name on
I
last
was
time, I
enjoying
think?
our conversation. Yeah, no, I've been on a few times before. Yeah, no, you have some very fascinating takes. Even today's one was very intriguing. I came a bit late, but I'm assuming it was on about whether hell is eternal. Because
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was about. Just about eternity. Like I've said before, I mean, my idea basically is that the next world is going to be one of timelessness more than it would be of anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, because I actually saw a few interesting verses on it, whether like how can an all merciful God condemn people that have committed finite misdeeds in this world to infinite punishment, and the most convincing verses that they used to justify it was in Surah. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rather than like eternity. And then there's the other one in Surah 19, Surah Maryam. God says about the transgressors, كَلَّا سَنَكْتُبُ مَا يَقُولُ وَنَمَدُّ لَهُ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ مَدًّا. We write down what they've recorded and we'll extend it, their punishment. So they argue that how can, if it's infinite punishment, why would God extend their punishment? So it has to have
Okay.
been
So it has to be
unending.
finite.
Yeah, finite. But that's for another story. No, so the reason I came on today, I just would like some clarity on a few verses. It's to do with time, but it isn't about the afterlife. I've just been having trouble like reconciling. Like I know it's like all on me. The verses I'm speaking about is Surah 32:5. So Surah Sajda they call it. God says يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض ثم يعرج إليه في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة مما تعدون. That God is the governor of the heavens and the earth, and to him
Sorry, you cut off.
no. So the verse was God's affairs ascend back to him in 1,000 years of God. But then in Surah 70 verse 4, Surah Ma'arij, God says there تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. The تعرج their data sent to him in 50,000 years. So am I missing something, or is it just like 1,000 years not literal? It's just like
No, the difference is basically that's talking about the angels and the ruh, and this one is talking about the amr, right? So they have different subjects. So that one says تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة, right? So it's تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة, right? Well, the other one is what was it again? يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض. Yeah, exactly. في يوم كان مقداره 1000 سنة, right? مما تعدون. I think the verse goes like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just one of them is talking about the ruh and the malaika. The other is talking about the amr of Allah. So it's just different subjects in the verses. Simple
So
as
is
that,
the
really.
amr of Allah like the commands of God, like what He commands, like His decrees, like whether they should be? Because what does it mean that so is the commands of God not instantaneous? Because I mean there are words like verses in the Quran where God says that إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا
أراد
أن يقول
شيئا
كن فيكون. Yeah. So
Yeah.
is there something else?
Well, even
The Amr of
kun fayakun is not instantaneous, right? It's not like
Oh
kun
yeah,
fakan,
it's not. Oh
right?
yeah. So God
It's not
created
kun
man, but
fakan.
they could have been evolution or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's kun fayakun, okay, and it will be. God says something be, it will be in God's time, however He wanted it to be, right? So, like the verse we just talk about Isa alayhi salam, okay, and then how can I have a son when no man has touched me? If God when it says, in the Mamru Idarati and يقول له كن فيكون. God, when God wants something, it will be, and it will be. That doesn't mean that Isa was sort of like, created instantly. Okay, no, she conceived him, 9 months labor, gave birth to him, he grew up, etc. Okay,
Yeah.
so it wasn't kun fayakun is not the translation is not a very good one usually, where you say something be and it is.
Oh yeah,
No,
it's
it should
stacked.
be
Yeah.
like it should be and it will be.
So the matter has been action, but it takes yeah. So it's the same thing. Like you can say like I'm going to cook meat or something, but like so you have um
Yeah,
authorized the meat cooking, but like it'll take time, for example, or it's
yeah. I mean, it
uh,
just means that it's
but the
going
word
to
of
be
God.
in
Yeah.
God in God's time. It just doesn't mean instantaneous. It's not going to be instant.
So it takes
Yeah.
1,000 years for matters to return back to God. But I
Mhm.
shouldn't think too much about it. It's just one of the
Which
mutashabih.
which which that verse? What's the verse again for in Surah Al-Sajdah? Which number is it?
Us first five.
Verse 5. Let me just put it up here. 32
Because I know
5, right? Sajdah's 32.
there is another one وإن يوما عند ربك كألف سنة مما تعودون, but that's
Yeah,
كألف سنة, as if that's more similitude. It's not really precisely. It
yeah. I
just
mean,
shows that.
so I mean that shows you how it is in sync. So in that one it says يدبر الأمر من السماء الأرض ثم يعرج إليه في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة مما تعدون. Okay, so this is Allah's Amr Himself. So in the other verse, when it says in يوم عند ربك كألف سنة, so that matches, because if that's about Allah's Amr and that one is talking about a day in His presence is ألف سنة, okay, then it matches that those both would be 1,000. Okay, the other one, which is about the Malaika and the Ruh, is 50,000. I mean, these are, of course, like they're difficult sort
Yeah,
of like to understand. They're not, we're talking about
it's
here relative
yeah,
time and
because it's
stuff
hard
like
to
this.
understand.
But
God
here, when it
exists.
says here, yeah, I mean, this verse, يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض, right? So from the sama to the ard. So I don't know. I think the amr here is talking about. It could be talking about things of the earth itself. Okay. يدبر الأمر. And يدبر here. يدبر. It's like tadbir is like how you plan things, right? Plan how things are planned. Okay.
Yeah.
يدبر الأمر. He plans the affairs. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
it's translation, he arranges affairs or he plans affairs. يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض. Okay, من السماء إلى الأرض ثم يعرج إليه. Okay, في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة. So the what's mentioned here, the tadbir from the sma to the ard is not given a time. Okay, but then it says ثم then يعرج إليه في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة مما تعدون. Okay, so the amr afterwards, whatever has happened of this amr, this then يعرج إليه في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة. So the amr coming down could be instantaneous. Okay, يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض ثم, and then so it's a break. It's two halves in this verse, right? There's
Yeah.
the affair coming down, okay, or going from the sma to the ard, and then there's the it's mi'raj, back up to God. Okay, that's what takes 1,000 years. Okay, so what means exactly isn't thing. But I mean, the other verse is more interesting. In the Yawmun inda rabbika ka'alfi sanatin mimma ta'udun, a day in God's sight is like 1,000 years of what you reckon, of
Yeah.
what that of course, um, it's coming. It's sort of, I think it's coming down to what, I mentioned it in my God's End Game video. That it's more like, okay, what's what's a decent amount of time for humanity, right? Like now, if you think about it in terms of those, it's only been 2 days since Isa alayhi salam, right? And
Yeah.
it's barely been a day and a half since Allah sent the Quran and Muhammad and the final revelation. It's only been a day and a half. Okay. So I mean, I use that for saying, the Yom al
Yeah. The
Qiyamah is not
throne
going
days
to,
concept. Yeah, no, I've heard
yeah,
that before.
yeah, that Yom al Qiyamah is not going to come, after just 2 days from Allah sending the Quran, right? And there's going to be a
Yeah.
decent
I
amount of
actually heard,
time.
and yeah, there was also an interesting take that said that where God says that وما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما في 6 أيام وما مسنا من لغوب, that I created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. There's a theory that says that we currently in the seventh day, and the last hour is, so basically like everything that happened in human history. So it took 6 days in God's like throne days, or according to God's time. Like he isn't like restricted to time, but our entire like reality from the creation of the Big Bang till the or like creation of the universe, that all took 6 days.
Hmm. And now this last part is the seventh day. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it makes
Yes.
sense. I understand. I shouldn't think too deeply about it. It's just that the
Yeah. I
basic
mean, it's
takeaway from
unknown. I
God
mean,
is
that even the idea of the Big Bang. Okay, it's not these are not absolutely conclusive
oh yeah,
um,
yeah,
proofs, right?
yeah.
So there are some that
Yeah,
say
it's
no,
like the
there
like
is,
Western. Yeah.
there's still ideas by scientists that know
Yeah, it's a
that
theory.
there was
And
no
then the
Big Bang.
verse أولم يروا الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah,
thanks so much.
no
I was just
problem.
trying like to wrap my head around why it takes 1,000 years for fears to return back to God, but I just
Hmm.
didn't think too deeply about it. It's just that
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
an expression. So
yeah, sometimes, yeah, no, no, sometimes the wording in these verses, if you don't pay attention, it can seem like it will throw you off, like the other verse of ما أصابك من حسنة فمن الله, right? It's
oh yeah, وما أصابك سيئة
whatever
فمن الله.
comes, yeah, whatever comes to you of good is from Allah, and whatever comes to you, from bad is from you, right? And then in the other verse, which seems to say that all good, all things, both good and bad, come from Allah.
Something
In
from
one of them
Allah.
it says min Allah, and the other one it says min indillah. Okay, min indillah, right?
Yeah.
قل كل
So
من عند الله فما
yeah.
لهؤلاء لا يكاد
So
يفقهون
لا
حديثا,
يفقهون.
right? Everything is from عند الله, right? But the good is from Allah and the bad is from yourselves. Okay, from ourselves. There's that. There's
Yeah.
also the other things which people talk about in terms of thinking these are contradictions of or in this case, I think it's an abrogation where Allah talks about the fighters on the battlefield, that that if there's 100, if there's 100 of you, you'll beat 1,000.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
الآن خفف الله
And
عنكم
then the next one of verse says, "Alan in the khafallah," and it says, if there's 100 of you, you'll beat 200. Okay.
yeah.
And if you pay careful attention to those verses, one of them, the one which is saying um, that you'll beat 1,000 or 10 times your number, that was saying if you are sabirun. Okay, if there's that many of you which are sabirun. In this case,
Yeah.
sabirun means each one of you is sabir. Each one of you is patient. Okay, whereas the other verse it says sabiratun. Okay, it's given that quality of sabr to the group as a whole. So the group as a whole is sabir. Okay, but not every individual is. Not every individual is. Okay, so another one it's sabirun, and that's why you can take some points of grammar from that, right? So when you say, uh, um, a group is something, and you can say you can use the word where it's noon, um, um, waw noon at the end. Okay, so whether you talk about kafirun, taqun, sabirun, all of these means each individual. If a group is described like that, it means each individual is of that quality, right? Whereas if you talk about the group as a whole and it's described as sabira, kafira, okay, mu'mina, okay, then it doesn't mean the whole group is like that. It means not every. It doesn't mean that every individual is like that. It means that the group as a whole has that behavior. You see what I mean? But yeah, so if you look at those two verses, for example, you see that difference. So you do get these things where people look at different
Oh,
verses.
so you actually took interesting. So you take the verse literally to mean that if it's an individual, it's a 1 to 5 ratio. If it's a group of patient, then it's 1 to 2.
No, I mean
Because I
these are two verses. They are still because what people will say that this is an example of abrogation. It's not an example of abrogation.
I
Okay,
just thought it
it's
was like an
it's
expression. Like if you're patient, then you can overcome anything. Because like you've overcome the fear of death or something. Because that's what I think Sayyid Qutb said. I found it
no, but
very
why the difference? Why the difference in numbers? Why is it in one of the verses it's saying that you'll be able to beat ten
you want to
times your
say.
number, okay, and the other verse is saying you'll beat only twice your number. Okay, the difference is if you look at the exact wording that's used for that's describing them. In the one which says you'll beat 10 times your number, they are described as sabirun. Okay, sabirun. Right? And the other one, the group is described as sabira. Okay, sabira.
Say for
And so you have
example,
this.
so if
Yeah?
I'm like only patient and I'm fighting a 1-on-1, I can technically fight 10 people. But if me and you are together,
No,
then we
no,
can
because
fight
because
four.
it's still talking about a group. Okay, you can't. It's one person. It doesn't work that easy. Okay, one person won't be patient person will not be able to beat 10 people. Okay, they'll just surround you and finish
Yeah.
you off. But when you're talking about large groups, okay, and groups are fighting, then something different happens. Okay, you get a cohesion. If the whole group is cohesive together, all of them are patient. Sabirun, okay, then they'll
Oh
be
no,
able
I
to
see.
beat 10 times their number. Okay. If you've got
So
sort of
like
like a
if
minimum
in a group,
threshold, a minimum amount. Okay.
oh,
Whereas if you have within that group, maybe not all of them are sabirun, maybe you have some who are, some aren't. That's why the verse says, "Alima anna fikum ضعفا." Among you, there's still
yeah.
some weakness. There are some of you who are weak. So some of you are not sabirun. Okay, among you,
Oh,
when it says "Alima anna fikum ضعفا," it means that some of you are weak. Not all of you are
yeah.
sabirun, right? But when you have, imagine yourself in a battlefield with a bunch of other people. When if everybody around you is holding firm and staying and holding the line, you will hold the line, right?
Yeah.
But if if you look to your right, and, four people have turned their backs and ran, and to your left, three people have turned their backs
Oh,
and
the
ran.
first
You know,
verse is
you,
more
you
like
start you start you start to
uh,
think, okay. But if you have a
you said
minimum
like
a
a
minimum amount
banana,
within the group,
like a
sorry.
concrete. So like the first verse could be seen like everyone there is like has fortitude in
Yeah,
faith. So
that's what
like
I'm
each
saying.
banana.
Everybody is sabirun. Each individual is sabir. When they say
And then the
sabirun,
second
the group
one,
is sabirun. And the second
they
one, no,
overall
it's the
patient,
the
but they're
not
not patient.
overall is that there's enough
Oh,
sabirun in there. Okay,
oh,
so maybe the majority, but not all of them. Okay,
oh,
maybe the
that's
majority, but not all of them. Okay,
oh,
so as
that's
a
amazing.
group, yes, there's enough sabr to hold the whole thing together. Okay, and be able to beat double their number, etc. That sort of thing.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank
Okay.
you for that. Um, I don't want to take up more of your time, but while we on like those verses in Anfal, um, the next verse, I know you made a video on it. It was the Caravan of Badr.
Hmm.
And the verse that it doesn't behove of a prophet to take captives until they've made a decisive victory in the land. Um, And then you actually provided a very interesting verse. You actually referenced the verse in Surah Nisa, "Alladhina yatarabasuna bikum," that it actually refers to the hypocrites that they essentially tried to protect the disbelievers. So they were the ones that pressured.
Yeah. Well, they basically refused. Um, they refused to allow the believers to continue fighting. They basically protected um,
Yeah,
the Meccans because they wanted to curry favor with them.
yeah.
Okay, and
So
this is from Hassan al-Maliki, his seer of the prophets from the Quran.
yeah,
Okay, so you see that there were some people because in in Uhud, of course, there were still some hypocrites. Even though Abdullah bin Ubay left with hypocrites, there were still some left. Okay, and so what
yeah,
happened is that once the Muslims were beating the Meccans, some of the Muslim Muhajirun, they, rather than allowing somebody like Bilal or Suhaib or one of the poor Muslims to kill one of the leaders of Kufr, who are
yeah,
rich and wealthy and stuff, and I said, no, he's my prisoner, and just to curry favor. Okay, so protected him from being killed, so that just in case next time the battle goes the other way, then they will remember that and look after them. الذين يتربصون بكم. That verse, yes.
yeah. No, so my question was, it's I should have asked you this back in the day, which I had to. Um, if you assume it, it's very like nice thing that you're aware of that verse, that it's not actually the prophet that is God, but it's actually the hypocrites that took the captives. I mean that took captives instead of killing them. That early ages of Islam. The thing is, how then do you interpret the verse "فَكُلُوا مِمَّا غَنِمْتُمْ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا" that consume freely of the because why would God tell the hypocrites then to consume freely of the captives that they just ransomed if they committed a sin in ransoming?
Well, because that's, I mean, it's done. The battle is done. They've taken already the captives. Okay, and that's it. They did it despite what they were supposed to. The point is, the prophet wasn't the one who took the captives. Okay, he wasn't the one who took the captives there, right?
Yeah.
Um, but once it's done, it's done. What are you going to do? The battle's finished. Okay. These people have disobeyed and they've taken all of these. These are my, our captives, and that's it. What are you going to do now? Just execute them? You're not going to do that. Okay. So they get kept, right? But that isn't part of the ghanima, right? It's not talking about that as much.
Oh, is
Okay.
that good? Going back.
Yeah. The
Wa'alamu.
captives were still given their own directives, right? There was a verse addressing them separately.
Oh yeah. يا أيها النبي كل من أيديكم من الأسرى يعلم الله في
Yeah,
قلوبكم. Oh, I
yeah.
see now. Oh, okay. So then the previous verse on that, ولولا كتاب من الله سبق لمسكم فيما أخذتم. I mean, لمسكم فيما.
أخذتم عذاب عظيم. Yeah.
Sorry, I know it's like off topic from today's
No, no
discussion.
problem. It's fine.
That because I know you did and like you did make a compelling case to vindicate the
Mm.
prophet, because it did sound a bit harsh that God would reproach, because he has like reproached him in like Surah Tahrim and Abasa, but not as harsh as it was in
Yeah, it wasn't a reproach to him. So he wasn't the one who reproached. Okay. So when it says ما كان للنبي أن يكون له أسرى, okay, that's not being addressed to the prophet. That's being addressed to them. Okay.
yeah
It's not befitting that he should have any asra, right?
yeah
It's been addressed to them themselves, to those who took the asra.
yeah. So yeah, I was just wondering about the next verse then, where God said that had it not been for preordained word is aimed at the hypocrites that
Yeah,
had I not speculated that he'll give you time in this world, like Allah yastahzi bihim I would have punished. Or is that referring to
it's referring to them, of course, those who took the Asra, right? Because not all of them did. It's referring only to those who took captives, right? Those people
yeah,
who took the captives when they shouldn't have.
yeah. So my question was, the preordained word, is that referring to God giving respite to hypocrites in this world, or is it reference to what they say in tafsir books, that it's referring to that verse in 47:4, فإذا لقيتم الذين كفروا فضرب الرقاب حتى إذا أثخنتموهم فشدوا الوثاق, like a verse allowing for captives, that instead of Muhammad,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
oh, it's
it's
both.
definitely part of that. The once you've taken captives, okay, then that's it. You take the captives; they're either going to be ransomed or freed. Okay, and that's exactly why those hypocrites took the captives, right? I mean, you can call them straight up hypocrites, or what the Quran calls them mutarabbisun. Okay, mutarabbisun. Those because they knew that that once you have captives, that the Prophet was not going to execute captives, right? That they're either going to be freed or ransomed.
Mm.
Okay, and so that's the Kitab Sabaq. Okay, from Allah.
Okay, no, makes sense. My last question for the day. Hopefully you have other callers lined up. The verse in Surah Baqarah, يسألونك عن الأهلة. It ends off وليس البر بأن تؤتوا البيوت من ظهورها ولكن البر من اتقى. Piety isn't about entering through the back door. Do you have a metaphorical, or would you look? Because
I haven't thought of that verse, to be honest, much. I haven't thought of that verse. Like, what has it got to do with the Ahila? What is the verse number again? Tell me.
1 second, let me just check. Um, it's verse 189.
189 from what? 189, which surah, sorry? To Baqarah, right? 99.
وليس
يسألونك
البر
عن الأهلة قل هي مواقيت للناس والحج وليس البر بأن تأتوا البيوت من ظهورها ولكن البر من اتقى وأتوا البيوت من أبوابها واتقوا الله لعلكم
Yeah.
تفلحون. Yeah,
So the
I
verse
haven't
number
given
وليس البر. Yeah. What does that mean?
yeah,
Like,
I haven't given that this much thought. Um, the most I remember starting to think about it a little bit, and thinking that maybe what's it talking about here is the um, what's it called the butte, the bait, maybe reference to the houses of God, right? قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلِلْحَجِّ. So
okay.
the Hajj especially is what it's where to Bayt Allah, right?
Yeah.
وليس البر بأن تأتوا البيوت من ظهورها. So don't go to the house of God from its back, from the back end or something like this. That's the most I gave it just brief thought, but I haven't really thought about what is this about. Okay, يسألونك عن الأهلة قل هي مواقيت للناس والحج. Okay, so I'm not sure what this is about. This though, it's going to be about all of these verses where they're asking. There's a question being put forward. Okay, and the
Yeah.
answer is coming in the verse. Okay, remember this answer, this answer that's in the verse is being given to those who are asking the question.
So it's like, or
Okay,
like time specific,
so
context specific,
yeah, so they would definitely understand what this was exactly, right? We, because we didn't have our history wasn't recorded properly. We're not we sort of scratch around. Okay, what are they really asking about? يسألونك عن الأهلة. Okay, why are they asking about الأهلة? Okay, why are they
Yeah.
asking about الأهلة? Okay, there's something in there asking about the أهلة. Okay, that there might have been some dispute. They're asking about it because some of them were doing something wrong. okay, which was them going to the buyut min ظهورها, okay, and so this has been corrected in that kind of way. Now, what exactly is? Not sure what it exactly is. I mean, the details are not there, but we can still take away something from this, which is, the plain reading of the verse, which is that bir is to come things from their front. Okay, don't try to sneak in through the back way, right? And you can take that metaphorically for a lot of things. There's a proper way to do things, and there's an improper way to do things. Okay, and taqwa is to do things in the proper way, in full view, in plain view. Okay, not in sort of a back way. Okay.
Could you please like provide me with an example? Like, what does it mean to not enter things to the like with piety?
Well, I mean, for example, this one is it's used a lot about in terms of trying to enter the house in terms of the relationships, right? You want to enter a house as in
Oh,
become marriage,
in
right?
halal way.
So if you're trying to enter marriage for the house, go from the front door, okay? Go and speak to the father. Go and meet the thing. Don't try to go the back way. Don't sort of like seduce the girl or the woman first, and do all of this, and then try to find a way from the back way. Get the mother involved. Try to get her to convince the father. These kind of that's a sort of a back way of doing things. Okay, instead
Oh,
of
I see.
go
So
for the
it's like
front
an
way.
English expression in a way. Do things like
Yeah, I mean, there's something behind this verse which we're not sure what it is. I mean, I'm not sure what the tafsir to say about it. Maybe they
yeah,
have
yeah,
some
no,
insight
yeah.
into
I think
what's behind it. But
yeah. Muhammad Asad says the same thing that um like what you said. You can interpret
yeah,
it
the
to
point is, all of
say
these, a lot of these verses which have these questions. I mean, these are very the Quran puts it here as a very succinct question. يسألونك عن الأهلة. They're asking about the Ahillah. Okay. Now, of course, the question is going to be more elaborate about than that. Probably, the question is going to the Prophet is going to know why they're asking that. Okay, and of course, Allah knows why they're asking that. So this answer is coming to them to solve whatever issue it is that they brought up. Okay, we can learn from that, but that's about it. I mean, it's like the verses about um, you know about what the Prophet made haram for himself. Okay, what was it? Okay, the verses don't tell us. They don't need to tell us. For us to learn from that, they
oh
don't need to
yeah,
learn. Okay,
that's true.
Quran is not about giving us gossip, right?
Yeah.
We don't need the gossip of these things. Even
Oh,
if right, who was the
oh
one who
yeah.
was
No,
slandered? Was it Aisha? Was it Maria? Who was it? Quran doesn't say. Okay.
it's still timeless in a way. Yeah, but there's like some relevance. We can tell it in a way.
Mhm.
Okay, no, thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Okay. So I'll see you inshallah next time, another time. Again, what's your full name? Because I don't think you've written this name last time. Last time it was just
Yeah, I
Adam or
know.
something, right?
Yeah, it was just Adam last time.
What's
It's
your name?
Ihtisham. Ihtisham.
Ihtisham. Ihtisham. Okay. Very nice.
And you are?
MashaAllah.
I didn't get
Okay.
your. I
Thank you.
thought I called you
Khalid.
Qur'an.
Khalid.
Oh, are you Khalid? Oh, nice to meet you.
Yes.
I
Okay.
was wondering one thing, Khalid.
Hmm.
There's this one YouTube channel that invited me, Perfect Dawa, but I
Yeah.
don't really align with the views. Do you also align? Like, do you align? Because I saw they told me that you on the because I know like you're very knowledgeable, and they say no, there are people that align with their views that's knowledgeable, and they were saying some very big claims. I was just wondering, do you agree with
Well,
these?
in many things, the important things, definitely. But the thing
Oh, you
people need to
disagree?
remember that the most important things are regarding taqwa and birr and ihsan, the main things of the deen. Okay, so when people differ over minor things, so what? I mean, for example, I differ with him. He doesn't believe shaitan is real. He thinks,
Yeah,
for example,
yeah,
shaitan is a capitalist system, etc. So he has very I mean, he's on. I think he's here right now, right? He's in the comments section anyway.
because I
He's
feel so
still
bad.
listening.
If he
Yeah,
is
go speak to him. I mean, he's
with me, and
I
I'm
mean,
very sorry.
perfect,
No, because I
perfect
had
guy.
a big
When
argument with him, Khalid, and I feel so bad for him because I was telling him that, but I've
mm,
given it some thought, and I wasn't very civil. So if you are listening, Moji, I'm very sorry. Um, No, because I was telling him, Khalid, that he's making up his own things. Because
Mm,
he had on there that day when I joined. It was, I think, last week.
mm,
Um, he had Christians on there, and
mm,
the way I saw the situation was, he was essentially um, uh, giving the idea of God and like the triune God
mm.
some support from it in the Quran, or that it overrides good, or like belief in that can be overridden by good works. I got a bit animated. So
That
if you
that
are listening, would you please forgive me? I'm very sorry.
that the belief in the Trinity, you mean?
Yeah, that the belief in
Yeah,
Trinity
belief in the
God.
Trinity, of course, is wrong, etc. But don't look, always everything doesn't not just belief in the Trinity, but no matter what the belief says, what matters is your deeds. Okay, actual beliefs are not. It doesn't. It's not a thing. I mean, being convinced of something, God is not going to punish you for being convinced of something. Okay, you know,
Yeah.
there's no moral judgment in being convinced of something that's wrong. Okay, you might be convinced of something right, um, um, or you could be convinced of something wrong. Okay, that's not a moral judgment. Kufr and iman and these things are not like that. Um, and I did do that. I don't know if you saw it's in the community posts, but I did write a thread about the Qur'an's how the Quran differentiates between Trinity, okay, and tritheism. Okay, so in one of the
Please,
verses, like the two
forgive me. Sorry,
verses. Sorry.
me, but I was in a very bad mood, and again, I was very
Sorry, you're cutting off.
that try to illustrate that point to me. But at the time, I was in a very bad mood and I wasn't in the
Ah,
right
okay.
place. So if he is
Yeah, no
listening,
problem.
please, Muji, I'm very sorry, right? And
Yeah, don't
I
worry.
hope
But I
you
mean, Muji is he's a very decent guy. I mean, the good, he's a real gentleman, Muji. So even
yeah,
though,
thank
like
you.
I said, I mean, there's a lot of things which I don't agree with him.
Mm,
But the thing about it, the big things are the important things. All right, the big things are, you know, the bir, taqwa, the ihsan, adl. You know, these are the things that matter. You know, when Allah, you know, said لقد you know أرسلنا رسلنا وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب ليقوم الناس بالقسط, right? That messengers and books were sent in order to establish
guys,
justice, right? And
yeah,
Muji is definitely all about that. I mean, I think he has an unrealistic sort of like utopia view of sort of like this sort of like perfect sort of communist future, you know, where there's no money, right? And you go to the store, buy everything you want. And he speaks about a lot about these sort of things. You know, that's fine. I mean, but
exactly. No, well, like with all
the
due respect, I'll never see eye to eye with you on that, Khalid, and with Muji about right, because I still think that is shit. My personal opinion, but the way I was acting was
about
very
what?
shit.
Sorry.
Yeah, like I don't think I'll ever agree with um your interpretation of Trinity, but that's okay. It's like, personal. Uh, but like the main thing is, I'm very sorry. So if you could, if you do see him, please
Yeah, no
forgive me.
problem. Don't worry
Appreciate
about
it.
it.
Thanks so much. Thanks
No
for giving
problem.
me
No
a
problem.
chance to speak. You have a good one.
Anytime. 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 Okay.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum. Take care of yourself. Jazakallah khair. Salam. All right. Okay. So, our two viewers who are left, we'll end it there. And we had somebody here called Fortnite 17. Yeah, no sound, he said. Let me just check no other things. Assalamu alaikum, Muji, if you're listening. I'm not sure if you're still around, but good to have you around again. Yeah, Muji here is Hisham offering his apologies, but it's okay, it's all good. Okay, spirited discussions are helpful. Okay, so I don't think there's anybody else coming on, so I'm going to end it here. It's pretty late as well. Hopefully, inshallah, I'll see if I can get it done to record the part 2 of the reaction video, which ended up being more like a lecture. The part 2 looks like it's going to be more like a lecture as well, but it is what it is. And then maybe later I will start to do the more short proper reaction videos. For anybody who wanted to see that video, which I couldn't show during the presentation, I'll just put the link in the chat as well, and I'll probably put the link in the once the video is live, I'll put it in the comment section. Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care. Until next time.